Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program produced and funded by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and by the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Ralph Eisler.
And I'm Larry Rhodes. And we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people committed to a life rooted in science and free of supernatural beliefs. This is a call-in show. However, we only have one phone line, so if you can't get through, we invite you to tweet your questions to us at FFTVKnox. That's at FFTVKnox. While we go over a few announcements, we invite you to start calling in now at the number on the screen. Right down there. Get a pen and paper, and we'll give you our email address later on in the show. The Atheist Society of Knoxville frequently has a fun meetup in a bar or eatery. Tonight's meetup following the show is at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in the Old City. That's the old Spaghetti Warehouse building.
Oh, yeah.
Starting around 5:30 or 6. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table. However, as you walk in the door, we're on the big long table on the right just as you come in. You can't miss us. There's usually 25, 30 of us. And as Matt Dillahunty at the Atheist Experience out of Austin, Texas says, everyone is welcome to our happy hour for food, drink, and conversation. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't.
Okay. Well, the Rationalists of East Tennessee have several regular monthly meetings. First and third Sunday meetings are usually lectures with lively roundtable discussions. The book club meets on the second Sunday, and the reflections group gets together at somebody's house for lunch on the fourth Sunday. The November 11th book club will feature Moonwalking with Einstein, The Art and Science of Remembering Everything by Joshua Foer. I'd sure like to be able to do that.
Me too.
And then on Sunday, November 18th, we have UT Professor Daniel Simberloff, a very distinguished professor at UT, is going to give us a talk titled Impacts and Management of Invasive Species. It's not hopeless. So if you want to get those pythons out of your backyard or the kudzu off your trees, why, come and listen to this talk.
That would be good.
And we want to give a heads-up announcement for a special public meeting on Saturday, December 8th, that will feature Tom Flynn, the Executive Director for the Council of Secular Humanism. This will be held in the auditorium of the Goins Administrative Building on the campus of the Pellissippi State Community College. The title of the talk is The Trouble with Christmas. Tom promised to give a hilarious look at the historical sources of all our holiday customs.
The Goins Administration Building, that's where RET usually holds its Sunday
Yeah, that's
talks.
where we usually have our Sunday meeting talks. It's marked on the side of the building. There's a big sign that says Goins Building there. And Tom says if you don't come to this talk, you'll really be missing something. Be getting like getting a lump of coal in your stocking.
Visit our websites for additional details, times and locations. Today's topic is Top 10 Myths About Atheism. But first, in the news.
Yeah, well, of course, this is election day, and we don't have much to say about it since it's still going on, and first polls won't close till probably around 7 o'clock. But I hate to say it, but if you're watching this program, instead of getting out there and voting, you should get out there and vote.
And if you voted previously in early voting, good on you, mate.
Yeah, right. So, talking about the Council for Secular Humanism and Free Inquiry magazine that Tom Flynn heads up, we'd like to remember the creator of both of these. It's Paul Kurtz, who passed away on October 20th. Paul was the father of modern secular humanism. He founded the Center for Inquiry and many other important organizations. He authored many key books and was a highly honored philosopher and professor emeritus at the University of Buffalo. He'll be sorely missed by many, a great loss. On the inside cover of Free Inquiry magazine, I have a copy here. You can pick this up probably over at Books A Million or at Barnes & Noble. You can find Paul's statement of principles of secular humanism. It's a moral code that seems far superior to anything that the religious churches offer. It's life-affirming in promoting a way for individuals to achieve the best of which they're capable.
And the first two of these principles read, 1. We are committed to the application of reason and science to the understanding of the universe and to the solving of human problems. 2. We deplore efforts to denigrate human intelligence, to seek to explain the world in supernatural terms, and to look outside of nature for salvation.
Which brings us to a couple of items that appeared in the Knoxville News Sentinel last Sunday. The first was a quote from the renowned philosopher and mathematician Alfred North Whitehead. He said, "The antithesis between a technical and liberal education is fallacious. There can be no adequate technical education which is not liberal, and no liberal education which is not technical." In other words, any truly educated person must be versed at least somewhat in both the liberal arts and the sciences.
My degree is in liberal arts, but it's political science.
Yeah,
but
well,
I did take a lot of this.
You know a lot of science. You read
Right.
a lot of the popular science
Right.
books, and there
Yeah.
are so many of them available on the
Sure.
market today. There's no
Right.
reason for
and
anybody.
video documentaries I find
Ignorant.
are very good
Yeah.
sources of information, and you get to receive that information very pleasant media with music and pictures and stuff. It's an awesome.
Right, and some of those, I think you can buy all the old Nova series now from PBS.
Right. The Cosmos series was a landmark series that would bring a lot of science directly to you, and in a venue that would be easily understood.
Yeah, right.
Most educated people realize this, that you must be pretty rounded in your education before you can consider it complete. So it is astonishing to read that the column by Heather Hughes on some opinion pages that just blew off science and reason while embracing the supernatural. Ms. Hughes is one of the News Sentinel's local best columnist, guest columnist.
Yeah, not best. but
So it
yeah.
is obvious that she has writing talent and is notably basically a bright young lady and seems to be caught in the trap of willful ignorance, i.e. if you remain ignorant of facts, they can't hurt your cherished beliefs.
Yeah, I call this the Peter Pan syndrome. I think most people are familiar with Peter Pan a little bit. Peter Pan, Tinker Bell, the Lost Boys, and others are characters in the literary works of J.M. Barrie. And most people are familiar with them from the Disney movie or the Broadway play. They live in a place called Neverland, where Peter famously refuses to grow up. It's often used as a metaphor for eternal childhood and childishness, immortality, or escapism.
Yeah, I call it the Tinker Bell effect, when you feel like if you believe hard enough, it will become true.
Right. We've maybe all seen these plays or seen the movies where the Tinker Bell is sick or something of the sort and
Poisoned.
and you
Got to believe.
You got to believe. The audience is encouraged to believe to bring Tinker Bell back.
Yeah. Well, Heather Hughes received a paper cut on her finger last week, and of course it was well along to healing the next day, which caused her to reflect on the complexities of nature. From this, she made the mental leap that the elaborate nature of creation is just one of the many reasons why she believes in God.
She then opines that she doesn't believe in the Big Bang. She says the notion that creation would have a creator seems a lot more plausible than the universe materializing out of some sort of cosmic explosion. Clearly, she doesn't have the foggiest idea of the science behind the Big Bang picture and seems to think it is some sort of arbitrary belief system like Christianity, which insists the creation of the universe was generated out of nothing by an invisible Neverland magician.
I can just see the physicists sitting around in their laboratory all holding hands and believing as hard as they can, that the Big Bang is true. Trying to bring it into reality.
Yeah.
Ms. Hughes goes on to say that it's difficult for her to understand how anyone who truly takes a moment to reflect upon the world would not at least believe in some form of intelligent design. This is the total arrogance of the creationist. The people who take the most time to reflect on nature are the scientists who study it. They don't just take moments to reflect, as Mrs. Hughes apparently does. They spend years and decades trying to understand how the universe came about and how life developed. Maybe if Ms. Hughes took the time to study some science rather than in just a moment to reflect on her beliefs, she might be able to better escape Neverland. But then again, like Peter Pan, she probably doesn't want to do so.
But her final comment was really kind of mind-blowing to a rationalist. She says, and I'll quote, "The main comment I see to hear from atheists regarding Christianity is prove it. Well, the truth is I can't. But isn't that sort of the point? If I could provide solid, undisputed scientific evidence of God's existence, there would be no need for faith. That trust is an essential part of following Christ."
She says.
She says, yeah. In other words, ignorance is a highly desired trait in order to be a really faithful Christian.
Right.
I find that kind of mind-blowing, and I unfortunately think there may be a lot of other people around who think the same way.
A lot.
But in this day and age, it seems so strange to those of us who were raised not raised in a scientific atmosphere, but who spent most of our lives in a scientific career.
Right.
That you'd rather believe something is true rather than finding out what the reality is.
Yeah. In the Atheist Society of Knoxville, we have a motto that says that science has questions that may never be answered, but religion has answers that may never be questioned. And that's the important part. You've got to have an active seeking mind and a willingness to learn and look into the science behind the claims that are being made to you. I have a kind of a grudging respect for the people that go up into Kentucky to the Creation Museum.
Oh, yeah.
Because they at least think that they're going to get some scientific explanation for what God has wrought on Earth, but they don't take any of the time necessary to question the BS that they're being fed in that venue up there. The fact that it took millions of years of erosion to make the Grand Canyon is self-evident to anybody who knows anything about geology and physics, or the cycle of erosion. But to walk in there and say it was the Great Flood in the Bible that did it, and then stop asking questions at that point, that's a problem. You can't just accept information that's being spoon-fed to you without any reliable information behind it or evidence.
Yeah, and again, as I say, there are so many popular science books out there that talk about the beginnings of the universe and its evolution, etc., that anybody who remains just completely ignorant of these things does it willfully. They don't do it because it's not available to them or because it's too complicated, because most of these books are pretty readable. And to go up to the Creationist Museum and see a little girl sitting on top of a triceratops as if it were a small pony and riding it around, it just seems so strange in this day and age. And I don't think this could happen in any other country except in the U.S., where people are just block out, whatever facts are that have been discovered scientifically, so that they can hold on to their beliefs.
Yeah. Let me take a minute to remind everybody that we are a call-in show. The phone line, we only have one, is open at this point, and we are accepting phone calls. We do have some more show to get onto, but the number is at the bottom of the screen, and please feel free to interrupt us anytime you'd like to talk about any of the things that we bring up.
Yeah, so, well, why don't we just get off the main program today, which is 10 myths about atheism, mainly.
Yeah. We're supposed to have a call-in show today. Today's show was supposed to be a call-in interview with Dave Silverman of American Atheists. He's the current president of American Atheists. But unfortunately, problems beyond his control prevented him from calling us today. We'll have him on the show in the near future, he has promised. So today we're going to talk about an article that Dave has posted on the American Atheist website called The Top 10 Atheist Myths.
Yeah, in that article, Dave starts out by saying, we all know that many theists are so close-minded about us that they won't even talk to us, let alone try to understand us. This is usually not their fault, as they are told terrible things about us by the people they trust. They're preachers whose whole livelihood depends on their parishioners staying in the flock. And yeah, that's the tribal syndrome, that you have to reject the other in order to maintain that tribal cohesiveness. It's this prejudice and conflict, which is one of the main factors keeping atheists in the closet and theists in ignorance. With dialogue, not prejudice, both sides will benefit, and the country will become a freer place. In this article, Dave says, I'll mention many of the myths about atheists that are popular among theists, as well as my usual responses. And with any luck, this will prepare atheists for future confrontations and make them more confident to announce themselves. So let's talk about some of these myths here.
You want me to take the first one?
Yeah, why don't you just start off with the first one there.
Atheists are all the same. You can understand why theists believe this after being told this over and over by preachers. This belief is reinforced by the fact that believers must be bound by more than just a simple belief in God. For example, Catholics must also have the same stances on abortion, contraception, homosexuality, in order to be called a good Catholic. It only goes to follow that atheism must be similar. Matter of fact, how many times have you heard atheism being called a religion?
Yeah.
Simply as a "we're not, you are" type of response.
Yeah, I think this is something that's rather common, you know, among the theists, that they don't have a good idea of what atheists are, but they seem to think they all follow along some straight and narrow path, which is not true.
Yeah.
I mean, we know atheists who are flaming liberals, and we know ones who are strong conservatives.
And libertarians.
Ayn Rand, the favorite of the right wing so far as economics goes, was an avowed atheist.
Buddhists generally are atheists. They don't believe in God. God was not a Buddha.
That's right. We just had a good program last Sunday by one of our members, Alan England. He lived in Korea and Japan for many years, and he gave us a talk about the various religions in Korea and Japan and how they influence society. And they don't influence society in any way in those countries like Christianity does here.
No.
They don't try to make some sort of a religious impact on the running of the country.
It's more of a philosophy. If you think about Confucianism and Taoism, they are, quote, religions, but they're really just philosophies.
Yeah.
They have a certain set of beliefs that they feel are good beliefs, and they follow them in their practice in their own lives, but they don't try to push them with a legal agenda like was going on here and with the Taliban in the Far East, or the Middle East, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, certainly here, I think Christianity is more akin to Islam than, you know, Buddhism or Hinduism, Taoism. Yeah.
The Allah is the same as our Yahweh. And they share the Old Testament, or many of the books of the Old Testament, with Judaism and Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, atheism is not a religion. Rather, it is the absence of a religion. It's like turning the TV off is a TV channel. As such, we're bound only by our atheism, which is one shared non-belief. We are Republicans and Democrats, men and women, gays and straights, blacks and whites, Asians. We accept every person as they are, as equals, and delight in our diversity. Many religions cannot say that, and indeed, Mormonism didn't say that until like the 50s or 60s.
Oh, yes, right. I mean...
and they still don't say it about gays.
And that's right. And how long did it take the Southern Baptist Convention to admit that they were wrong about their attitude towards black people?
Yeah. During the Civil War, Christianity was, Southern Christianity, I guess I should say, was staunchly against the abolition of slavery, using the Bible itself to support slavery. And they were on firm grounds, because the Bible does, in fact, support slavery. Nowhere in the Bible does it say slavery is bad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so it was But, you know, some of those attitudes still persist today. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
I think if you look at how the voting goes today, you'll find that Southerners are almost uniformly for the Republican Party, which is strange. Originally, of course, it was the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, that freed the slaves.
Right, that's strange.
But somewhere along the line, back when Nixon adopted this Southern strategy, why the parties just sort of flipped. And so the
weird.
Republicans today are much like the Dixiecrats of old, back in the 50s, 60s.
True. Atheists agree with each other on many issues, and discussion is encouraged and common. You ought to make it down to one of our atheist meetup groups, and we can guarantee you, if nothing else, good conversation on just about any topic. Above all, atheists demand the right to disagree, even if it means with each other.
Yeah. And we do disagree with each other. We have the Rationalists of East Tennessee has a discussion group, online discussion group, where people can get on there and say what they want. Usually there are not severe disagreements, but there are certainly disagreements.
Sure.
And we do have one or two people who are a little different, I should say much different from the rest of the group.
Yeah. But we're like everybody else, we're human. So even if we don't lack a dogma, I mean, if we lack a dogma, we still have other human feelings and interests, love for our fellow man, love for our families and our ties. So there will be quite a bit of a lively discussion in any group that you get together, where you partition off religion, don't talk about it, you find plenty of other things to talk about. It's exactly the same thing with an atheist group.
Yeah, and this leads into the next myth that Herb has, or Dave has talked about, that theists often believe, and that is that they say atheists have no morals since they don't believe in God. Now, what a sad world this would be when people can seriously say that humans need to fear eternal damnation in order to do good. And this is the point of secular humanism, as I talked about, the legacy that Paul Kurtz left, and which you can find spelled out on the inside cover of Free Inquiry magazine as an affirming type of humanism. And I think saying that atheists have no morals, it's one statement which at the same time stirs both anger and pity in most atheists. Anger because it is a bigoted, prejudicial statement which serves no purpose except to promote intolerance, because it highlights the speaker's ignorance and willingness to accept such stuff without question. I can remember not this election, but back, I think, in the election of 2000 or 2004, people were having some debates, and one of these television shows had a lady on who was very polite and nice and had some preacher on, and you know, they obviously had different points of views about the election because one was Democrat, one was a Republican. And finally, the preacher gets down to the point and he says, well, my morals come from God. Where do your morals come from? And he wouldn't even let this woman answer. He just kept haranguing her, you know, and dogging her, which I thought was pretty immoral itself, as it stood.
And if you take morals coming from God, you've got how many different interpretations of the same book in the same country, or all over the world, for that matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you could walk 3 blocks in Knoxville, Tennessee, and point to 6 different churches, and they all interpret the Bible differently on different aspects. And some of them will accept gay, some of them won't. It's just picking and choosing. It's just cafeteria Christians type of thing. But actually, I'm very glad that most Christians are like that. I certainly wouldn't want them to follow every jot and tittle in the Bible. That would make for some pretty horrendous results. Stoning of non-virgins on a wedding night, stoning of unruly children, getting rid of all your worldly possessions, which is one thing that Jesus himself preached. Giving no thought to tomorrow, These are all would be direct result of following the literal word of the Bible.
Yeah, and of course maybe the one thing that we all sort of take away, I think, from the Bible as a summary is the golden rule. Stated in the Bible, it's stated as do unto others as you would they do unto you, but this is 400 or 500 years before anything was written in the Bible, or before Jesus ever lived, from Confucianism, where he put in a slightly different test, saying, do not do unto others what you would not want done unto you.
I think that was Confucius.
Confucius, what I say? Did
I guess. I was thinking of particular wording in my mind. I may have missed your reference. But the thing about it is, let's say that you do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That would take a whole different connotation if you were a sadist or a masochist.
Yeah.
That could cause some harm right there.
Yeah, well that's that's why phrase, the way the Confucius is phrased, it is seems to be better.
Yeah, and let's give this this one more thought. Atheists have no morals. Okay, so you've got the Confucius are atheists. The most Buddhists are atheists. Taoists are atheists. Most of the people in China and the Netherlands are atheists. 50% of maybe most of the European countries are atheists. And we all know what riots go on a daily basis, and murder and killing and burning of every conceivable building.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we know this doesn't happen. I mean, 20% of, let's say 15% of America fall under the nones, meaning they have no religion, and a lot of particular segment of those fall under atheism. I'd say maybe 10% of America. But if you look at the prison population, 0.02% of the prison population is atheist, and 99.8 or 98% are Christians or of some other religious.
Some religions, yeah.
And mostly are Christian.
Yeah.
So it's not all the atheists doing all this stuff out there.
Yeah, and you bring up another point that's interesting. A recent poll came out, I think it stated that as many as 24% of the population came under this category of nones. That is, that they don't identify with any organized religion or belong to any particular church. It's not that they're all atheists or agnostics, but and many of them feel spiritual, or they say they're spiritual, whatever that means, but they really don't participate in the religion.
No.
And you know, these people are out there, and on the average, they're just as moral as anybody else in the population.
I knew one lady one time, this was back when I was doing a lot of dancing, and when you do country dancing, you don't just come out and tell everybody in the world that you're an atheist, because it's a pretty, what do you call it, a conservative group, mostly religious. But at one point, I told this lady that I was an atheist, and she says, "Oh, no, you're not." I said, "Why would you say that?" She said, "Because you're too nice."
Yeah.
So she right there was saying atheists are good people, at least this particular one. And I'm sure that you know some people out there who are atheists, whether you know it or not that they're atheists, but you probably work with them, they're your neighbors, they're delivery people, maybe your mailman. We're out there, and we're living our daily life, and we're enjoying it and getting on with our neighbors.
And you and I both know people, though, who are atheists who don't broadcast it just because they're afraid they might get harassed at work, or maybe even fired at work.
It could happen. It could easily happen.
Yeah, or that their that they would lose relationships with their families. I read a story about one young fella, I guess, in the paper somewhere, who came out and told his family he was atheist. They made him move out of the house. You know, I mean, he was 19. It's not that he was a little kid or anything.
Yes, but that happens and can happen to much younger kids, even in high school. Imagine being in like your junior year of high school, and your parents find out you're an atheist, and they turn you out of the house, or have nothing to do with you. They take away your college funds. They do anything in the world they can to pressure you to come back to the religion.
Yeah.
And
So maybe it's time here now we take a little break.
Sure.
And then we'll come back and take up this topic again.
Have a couple short little informational videos that we can run here.
If you live in or around the Knoxville area and are questioning your religious beliefs or simply believe in one less God than everyone else, well, you're not alone. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun and friendly group of people just like you that meets twice a week at a bar or restaurant. We meet every Tuesday night following the show at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria for happy hour. You'll find our group either inside or on the patio. Look for Richard Dawkins' silver-jacketed book, The God Delusion, standing upright on the table. On Fridays, we meet at Agave Azul or the Beard and Beer Market. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. We all question what we believe at one point in our lives. If this is the time for you, come join us for food, drink, conversation, and fun.
We can always come back.
Do you find stories of talking snakes laughable? Do you prefer the scientific method over supernatural beliefs? Are you concerned about religious leaders and organizations imposing their values and rules on your body, your family, and the rest of our society? Well, take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. The Rationalists of East Tennessee meets weekly for fellowship and provides a forum for people who support skeptical thinking and rational discussion of these and other issues. To find out more information or to find out about our next meeting, visit us on the web at www.rationalist.org.
Welcome back.
Yeah, let's look at another myth that theists often bring up. They say atheists believe in evolution, but that doesn't answer as many questions as creationism.
Right.
Now, the creationist answer, the theist answer to almost any question is God did it. Now, that's not an answer. That's just a term for human ignorance. And we all know that hundreds of years ago, people believed that God controlled the weather, it caused plagues, caused floods, etc. Most people don't believe that now, although there are actually some who still do. I mean, you can read some of the letters to the editor in the New Sentinel, and you'll find people who still believe that God is visiting natural disasters on America because of our moral decay.
Because of the gays, particularly.
Particularly because of gays, and particularly because of abortion. Those are the two things, seem to be the only two things that motivate the religious fundamentalists these days.
Yeah. What's funny is whenever he does something bad, they always say it's because of the gays or abortions or something like that. But whenever he does something good, it's because he loves us. So,
yeah.
I mean, maybe he's just not doing anything. It's just weather is weather. The heating and cooling of the Earth's air causes the weather and earthquakes and plate tectonics, and these are all natural systems that we understand very well nowadays.
Yeah.
It doesn't call for a vengeful God to be out there twiddling with every little aspect of nature and disease and human malady, psychosis. No. These are all things that we pretty well understand now, a lot better, 100% better than we did maybe 100 years ago. We know the reasons behind it, and we know the ways to prevent most of it.
Sure.
Can't prevent the weather yet.
Right. But that doesn't mean that science can answer all the questions you have. Science is an ongoing effort to try to understand the world. And what we find out is that the more we know, the more complicated things seem to be.
Right.
But just because you get to the point where you say, oh, I don't understand this now, it must be God who did it.
Well, positing God is not positing an answer, it's positing even a bigger mystery.
Yeah, exactly so. And the history of humankind, or let's say ever since science really started to come to the forefront about 400 years ago with Kepler and Galileo and Newton, has been that we've understood more and more, and that God has gotten pushed back into a smaller role.
Fewer and fewer gaps.
Fewer and fewer gaps in what he could do in the universe. And so even though science still struggles with many questions, the amount of knowledge gained in just the past 100 years is absolutely phenomenal. And everybody in this country benefits from the technology that comes out of that scientific knowledge. I mean, can you believe if we were living 100 years ago, particularly women, you wouldn't have any washing machines, you wouldn't have washers and dryers there, you wouldn't have any television set or refrigeration.
Cell phones.
Very few people would have automobiles.
GPS.
Your life would be entirely different from what it is today, and much harder, much harder.
No, you're a physicist, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a physicist on the show. If you have any questions about how the Big Bang started, or you know how the Big Bang started, didn't you?
It started with a bang?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a caller right now. Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name or a nickname?
Hello.
Hello. May we have a name or a name, please?
My name's Chris Yarbrough.
Hello, Chris. Welcome to the show. What's your comment or question?
Well, I was just flipping through the channels. I just kind of noticed it, and I was just wondering, I mean, if there is no God, I mean, then what's the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's the point of even talking about it or an argument or anything?
Why does life have to have a point that somebody else or some external being gives you? Aren't you a good man enough or good enough to create your own points for living? Don't you have things that you'd like to accomplish in this life?
Well, I'm saying, what's the use in trying to divert people? You know what I mean? So some people do believe in God. You know, why should somebody exercise their thoughts?
No, they can believe in God if they want to. We don't have a problem with that. But the problem is that organized religion causes great harm. You hear every day where some kind of religious nut or religious leader is causing pain and suffering to the people around him. Also, these religious organizations are trying to pass laws that force non-believers to conform to their beliefs.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's the real problem. I mean, if a person wants to believe in God or spirituality or something like that, that's fine. But, you know, Christianity in particular feels that it has to go out and evangelize the world to turn everybody to their way of belief. And you can see it in these people that push to get creationism taught in public schools, for instance, or to get the Ten Commandments posted in courthouses. And so, for the most part, what atheists just want to do is let people have their own religion, but not inflict it upon the whole population.
And one of the reasons we're doing this show here is that most people don't know anything about free thought and atheism. We're here to answer questions and to talk about it and shed a little bit of light on the subject.
Yeah. Well, I do on personal testimony, and I have to agree with you. I don't agree with organized religion, so I have to agree with you on that one point in particular. Myself personally, I was raised up in a home where we had a lot of violence. You know, my father was a gambling man. He used to beat on my mother and myself, and I really wasn't raised up around too many good things going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I wound up rebelling myself and in and out of a lot of trouble, wound up in juvenile hall, 19 charges I had before I even turned 18 years old. When I was 20 years old, I kept on going to jail, in and out of trouble. Wound up in 2004 getting in a lot of trouble. We're going to prison.
Well, let me ask you a question.
What happened to me in my life personally? I don't agree with organized religion, I can tell you that. But I gave my life to Jesus Christ, and He changed my life completely. He's not, to me, as far as you say, He's religious or anything like that. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with my Savior being a religious figure. I think He's the Son of God. I think He's the Lord God's Son.
Okay, I don't think you're taking any credit for your own actions and your own decisions.
Well, no, He saved me. I mean,
I think you saved yourself.
No, I didn't do anything at all. He gave me the greatest peace I've ever known when I was at the lowest point in my life, about to blow my brains out. Actually, Jesus Christ made me He restored me and taught me how to be a father, a husband, my wife, and to teach my children, right from wrong. I believe there's a difference between right from wrong, and I believe that it's important that me, as a father, to teach my children the difference between right and wrong. Yeah. And to tell you the truth, and I heard what you guys were saying earlier about being a good moral person and things like that. But the way my Bible teaches is we're not saved by our works. You can be a poor person, but that's not going to do you any good.
Okay. When you're talking about being saved, are you talking about being saved from your alcoholism and your past, or are you talking about saving your soul here?
My soul.
Okay.
I've been born again.
Okay. Well,
I think if that works for you, Chris, that's fine. I think there are other people in that situation. Our last president, George W. Bush, said he had similar experience. And sometimes people may need a little bit of help like that, even though we don't believe that as that kind of intervention really takes place. We believe that you pretty much come to the conclusion that you do it yourself, although you may think you have this outside influence.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Jesus didn't come down and talk to himself, did he?
No, actually.
Okay, who did you talk to?
I talked to the Lord. I fell on my knees and I cried out to the Lord.
You talked to yourself, or you talked to your preacher?
No, I talked to my Lord Jesus Christ. The preacher couldn't do anything at all for me. Whenever I got saved on the living room floor of my house, and I didn't go to church. I never knew any preachers. I was raised up around drug dealers and people that were running the streets and stealing and lying and doing things that are ungodly and evil. And that's the only kind of people I knew. And so,
well, we're ungodly, but we're not evil.
Okay, is that
okay, so that's the problem that we have with this. Your father, was he a religious man?
No.
But he was a totalitarian, an authoritarian. He didn't brook any questioning of what he said.
No. If you want to know the truth, I never really knew who Father was. The one that raised me is...
Okay, well, what I'm saying is that religions generally are totalitarian and authoritarian themselves.
Well, see, that's the point. That's religion. See, what you guys aren't getting is that I'm not a religious person at all. I gave my life to Jesus Christ, and he saved my soul. And as far as, there's thousands of religions, but the Lord said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father except he come by me. Okay. And for you to be...
That sounds an awful lot like what every Christian preacher out there who are in religion would say. Just because you didn't talk to one doesn't mean that you aren't one yourself, and it sounds to me like you are. Yeah. But we don't have to go there. No, what it seems to me like is that you imagined a very perfect being and talked yourself into modeling after that person until your activities improved.
Yeah.
And I think that you need to give yourself more credit for doing that type of thing.
No, listen, I was on cocaine at the point to where I was ready to blow my brains out. Right. I was on pills. I was every drug you could imagine. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about?
I cried out to the Lord. I was at the point of life where I had a pistol. I had a pistol to my head at one point in my life, and it was like the devil's in hell wanting me to blow my brains out. And in the background of my mind, I could see the Savior reaching out for me and saying, "Come unto me." And that's exactly what I did. I put the pistol down. I cried out to the Lord. And he gave me the greatest peace that I've ever known in my life. And it had nothing to do with a preacher, had nothing to do with religion.
Okay, I think we're going around in circles here, but I'm glad to hear that you were able to avoid suicide and were able to pull yourself out of that. And the fact that you're not a member of an organized religion, I'm sure helps. But thank you for calling, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think... we support you all the way with that. Our point is that we just don't want people trying to impose their religion on us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll never try to impose my religion on you.
Oh, okay, thanks for calling, Chris.
Okay, thank you. Oh, we're here every Tuesday, so come back next week.
All right.
Talk to you later. phone lines are open. We can accept another call, or we can go on to the next myth that we were talking about.
Yeah, we don't have another call waiting there right
No,
now, I think.
not yet.
So, well, anyhow, what we're talking about was what science can answer that creationism doesn't, and we've already gone through this point that just saying God did it is no answer at all. That's
Right.
just another way of expressing
It's
human
positing
ignorance.
one mystery for another mystery.
Yeah, and getting back to what I started the show off with on our In the News segment of this young lady who just, you know, blows away all the scientific evidence of the Big Bang because she wants to believe in the magic. That's something that happens in backward countries. I know it happens here too, but it's hard for me to relate to it, to empathize with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Want to move to myth number 4?
We'll go 4.
The myth number 4 is atheists cannot know if there is no God, and since you cannot prove he does not exist, you should believe in him. No, I misread that. Atheists cannot know that there is no God since you cannot prove he doesn't exist. Well, this is a two-sided coin, but the theists are loath to admit the other side. Atheists don't need to prove the non-existence of God any more than we need to prove the non-existence of Zeus or Jupiter or teapots orbiting the Earth, the sun.
Mars. Yeah.
Can theists prove one God over any other God? Can they prove that they're in the situation that they have to prove that Zeus is not real?
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
we have another caller. Caller, can you give us a name or a nickname?
Sam?
Sam.
Hello, Sam. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Do you have a question or comment for us?
Yeah, well, I actually was, you guys might have already covered this. I'm only about 10 minutes into the program. I just caught you guys on television. And I actually just had a question.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to ask, how do you think there is a possibility of intelligent life out there?
Yeah.
You're talking about in the universe, other intelligent life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think there's a possibility of that? Yeah, like being
Yeah,
higher.
It's a big universe.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awfully
Yeah.
big universe, so I think that there is a possibility.
Right.
I can't tell you what the probability would be.
Now, the thing about that is, we agree that there's a possibility. Should we go ahead and believe that they are out there without evidence? No. We should withhold belief until evidence is presented that is compelling enough to believe in it.
Okay. Yes. And I guess, real quick, 'cause I know you don't have a lot of time, do you think that there's a possibility of a higher intelligence that maybe had a hand in creation in the universe or even in the Big Bang? There's a possibility.
There's always a possibility, but my own opinion is the probability's vanishingly small. But you can't say for sure there isn't. We can't prove that there is not some higher
That
intelligence
comes
out
right
there.
into the myth that we were
Right,
talking
and
about.
that's right into the myth we
okay.
were talking about
Yeah.
here.
We can't, if you say you can't prove there's no God, so therefore, there's a possibility that he's out there, you're in the very same boat with us, because you have to say you can't prove there's no Allah, or there's no Ra, or there's no Chacapulco, or whatever his name in Mexico.
Well,
there are 10,000 gods out there that have been created by man over the history of the world. You'd have to disprove all of them, or believe in all of them.
Yeah, well, she was asking about some higher intelligence, I think, without,
Well, we pretty much know where that was
specifying.
going. But I may have been jumping the gun. I apologize if I was.
No, that's okay. No.
This higher, when you talk about a higher intelligence, you're talking in human terms. This is one of the difficulties people get into when they talk about gods. You cannot describe a god except in human terms. You don't have any other words.
I absolutely believe that. Yeah.
So every definition of God or every picture of God turns out to be made in the image of man in some way or another. And if there is some higher intelligence out there, it's not going to be anything near like man, despite the fact that the Bible says man was created in the image of God. We know really the gods that people generally talk about are created in the image of man.
Mm-hmm. And it has all the same foibles as man.
Yeah.
Jealousy, anger,
Right.
rage, love.
Yeah. So.
Right, right.
But evidence is everything. Evidence, when you have the evidence, that's when you should believe.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, I just wanted to know. So basically, you're not saying you don't believe. You're not saying that you do believe. You're saying you don't know. Is that
No,
pretty-
we're
No.
saying you can, not knowing and not believing are two different things. I try to cover this at least once on every show. I'm an atheist. That covers my beliefs. It means I don't believe in God. I'm an agnostic because I don't know that there's not a God or that there is a God. I don't know one way or the other. But me not knowing, there are people out there that say, I don't know that there's a God, but I believe in him anyway. See what I mean? Well, I don't know that there's not a God, but I don't have any belief in a God. So I'd say
Yeah.
I'm an agnostic atheist.
And the point is that God is by itself is a meaningless term, and if you say, do you believe in a God or not, you have to define what that
And
God is.
every
What
single person on the planet has a different definition
God.
of the word God.
And you have to define what those characteristics are. We can prove that certain gods can't exist. We can't.
I just have to believe there's something out there bigger and better than us. I mean, we tend to have a really huge ego. We think that, we're with all this technology and we're so advanced.
Well, I've always figured that the person who said they had the ear of the creator of the universe and could talk to him anytime they want to is pretty egotistical.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, well, I don't.
And that he cares about them. And
Well, tell.
Cross over into, but I look at, humanity and I'm like, really? Is this it?
Well,
because, so barbaric. We're just a barbaric species.
Yeah,
Look how
well-
long we've been on the planet, and then look what we do to each other.
Well, there's a Superman analogy I like to throw out there. If you were Superman, you had all of his powers, or Superwoman, or whatever. Would you just sit on your TV at home and watch TV all day? Wouldn't you go out and help the people of the planet? Well, we all have our own powers. We can go out and help each other. We can make life easier for each other. That's a good plan. That's a good reason for being for anybody on this planet. And that's what the Humanist Manifesto is all about. I call it a manifesto, but
Yeah.
what humanism is all about. You might want to look it up, find out a little more about humanism.
Yeah. So why do you really want to believe that there's some other intelligence out there, or some higher power?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had trouble hearing you. A little bit far away.
Yeah. Why do you want to believe that there is some intelligence out there somewhere in the universe, or some higher power?
Because I just don't think human beings can possibly be it. I mean, and then, just, I don't know, the way everything, and then I would think, I look at all these other planets and I think, come on, why aren't they also teeming with life?
They might be.
The case. I mean, the ones just in our solar system, I look and say, it's awfully lonely out here, where is, what I mean? I don't know.
We could be the
Really
first. We could be the first civilization that's ever come up to be able to ponder the questions of the universe. We
Could
don't know. And the distances are so large, it's unimaginable. I mean, we started broadcasting into the deep of space back in the 30s and 40s, but even that was only like 80 years ago, so that bubble of electromagnetic information is only 80 light years out. The breadth of the Milky Way galaxy alone is...
Well, it's about 100,000 light years across.
100,000 light years ago. That's just one galaxy. And there are hundreds of billions of galaxies in the cosmos.
Wow.
So it's just unimaginable.
Yeah. No, for me, I have to believe that there's something out. No, I have to, because when I look at the state of the world, I know there's good human beings out there, but I've really lost faith in us when I see.
Oh, there's good people out there.
Okay.
Don't lose faith in the good people out there.
No, not the good people. Not the good people.
Well, remember-
I find that most of the good people, and don't get me wrong, I'm taking anything away from you, but a lot of, and I'm sure there good people that are atheists, don't be wrong. I mean, I find a lot of them also believe that there's something else out there, like you said, whether it's Jesus or Allah or Jehovah, or, you know, but I don't take anything away from I'm not taking anything away from you. I don't know. Until, you know, human beings show me something different, I have to believe there's something better and bigger than us.
Well,
I have to.
most human beings are probably pretty nice people. It's not that there aren't some bad eggs around, but I don't know. I look around at my friends and neighbors and coworkers, and they're all pretty nice people. So
Yeah, yeah.
And
I mean, well, let's turn on. I mean, we're like let's say a world pro or something, and you look and you're, what's going on? Really, we've been here this long on the planet, and it seems like we've really not changed. We haven't.
I think we're progressing rather well right now that we've got the Dark Ages behind us. And you have to admit that during the Dark Ages, the religions ruled the worlds, and superstition was the rule.
In the dark, yeah. I do
And
agree.
once we had the Enlightenment, we're coming along pretty good. Look at the way we treat each other nowadays versus the way we did a couple hundred years ago, or 100 years ago, or 50. We're doing pretty good, I think, if we can continue the progress. We just don't need to take a leap back in that direction.
right, and you know, things don't happen instantaneously. We don't condone slavery in this country anymore. We're coming around to a more humanistic view towards gay and lesbian people, realizing that this is not necessarily something that is by choice in their lives, just as skin color is not by choice. So we do make progress.
I do think in some areas we have. Yeah, I do. I just, like, you know, you look, even the planet. How much longer can it last?
That's the problem, but
that's
we
a
need
good
to work
question.
on that problem.
That's a whole show almost here.
Yeah, something off. I guess that's my whole point. I just, you know, I look at us and I say, yes, there are good people. But I look at us and I say, we just don't make it to me.
Well, we need to use our hands for working on those problems and our minds for working on those problems, not sitting back and praying and leaving it to God.
Yeah.
I believe that we have to have a hand we really do have to, you know, own what we do, you know. I do believe that also, you know, on that side with you, we have to own what we do. And when we don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I myself pray. I do believe, you know, a God, but human beings have to start seeing what they do. And we don't. We don't really own it.
Right.
Like, own up to it.
I agree.
You know, it's this guy or that guy, or we can't do nothing about this over here. Come on, guys. We're stuck on this planet together.
Okay, Sam. Well, thank you very much for calling.
Yeah.
Calling, we're here every week at 5 o'clock, 5 to 6.
5 to 6, yeah.
Sounds good. I'll be looking forward to seeing you guys on TV.
Okay, thank you.
And don't forget, we have a meetup down at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria right after the show. You're welcome to come down there and have more conversation on the same vein or a different one.
Yeah, I mean, people out there who have some ideas that'd like to bounce off us, why don't you come on down and have a beer or Coca-Cola or something of the sort and just sit and have conversation. Why, it's a pretty friendly group. So it's time now to close up, I guess.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close to the end of the show. Got about a minute left. Get out your pen and paper. This has been a Freethought Forum programmed by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee.
Okay, please send us feedback. Leave voicemail at 865-272-9060. That's voicemail at 865-272-9060, or email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
And you can see this show we were talking about earlier on Tuesdays, every Tuesday from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Time. This Knoxville station also shows on ctvknox.org. You can watch it live streaming if you're out of the area and would like to pick it up that way.
Yeah, and remember the really important thing is to examine your beliefs, examine them critically. Just don't take what people tell you on faith.
Don't even take what we tell you on faith.
Yeah, don't even take what we tell you on faith. Examine your beliefs. What is